All right, let's get into it. Today we have a director of a really wonderful horror short film. We met him at the New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival as well, and his film won the award for Best Cinematography, I believe, and also got a slew of other nominations. Welcome the director of the Dark Strums, Stephen Russell.
Hey guys.
Stephen, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is really cool. This is really cool. I enjoyed this.
Good. I'm glad you're excited, man. Thank you again for coming to hang out with us. By the way, I'm very curious. What does your shirt say?
J'adore Paris.
Oh, very cool.
It's a tourist shirt.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay, fair enough.
We all I have a lot of Hard Rock Cafe shirts, so I'm right there with you. So thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to meet you in person at New Jersey. I had other obligations to attend, unfortunately, out of town, rocking away with my day job. So
happens to all of us.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
So you're training to be a wrestler or something. Yeah, you're gonna have to do that.
You've already explained.
You're trained to be a wrestler?
Oh, okay. Well, Steve asked, so now I have to explain this. Okay, so while I was in Dallas training, one of our good friends of the whole group posted a video that spread like wildfire among all of our friends of a professional wrestler. I do not know this guy's name. But I knew about him before this whole incident. I thought he disappeared from my life, but apparently these guys dug him up and found out. I've been told by many people that if they ever made a movie about this guy, I would have to play him because I look just like him, except not as beefed up. There's in the video, he rocks a light blue, a fucking like baby blue periwinkle Canadian tuxedo like no one's business with sunglasses and wrestles about 5 to 10 dudes with his hands in his pocket. Jumps out of the ring with his hands in his pocket and just tackles a whole of guys and then never takes his hands out of his pockets. It's pretty damn cool. But apparently, I know it sounds ridiculous the way I explain it, but when you see it, you're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool.
No, it's still ridiculous.
Oh, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Awesome. Let's go with that. And they all said that I look just like him. So the rumor is that I actually did not go down to Dallas, Texas, to start a new career in the marketing field. I started a new career in the WWE and didn't tell anybody. But when you see this video, you'll understand that I do in fact look a lot like him. But yeah, that's where that whole thing started. So you'll hear a lot of those jokes on a lot of these podcasts.
Wow.
Yeah,
I was gonna actually wear a wrestling hoodie for this. I have an Owen Hart hoodie I was gonna wear, but
nice.
I decided not to wear it.
Oh,
I could go grab it. It's very pink and it's very bizarre. It's a very bizarre.
Well, we do usually take a break on this podcast about every half hour, so if you feel like changing into it on the break,
It might get chilly in here. I might have to throw on my Owen Hart hoodie now.
Oh, well then rock and roll. Say rock and roll.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for being on here. Obviously we do typically what we do with a lot of our podcasts with interviews, we try to take the step to an overall message, which is, what inspired you? How did this start? How did all this madness start? And then we get into more specific questions. But I usually always kick it off. Then Brandon has his list, like an old gunsmith. He's waiting to but so for you, sir, how did this adventure start for you in filmmaking? When did that touch your life? And then obviously, because we're a horror podcast, when did horror get into your life, and when did you decide, hey, you know what, I could do that? I don't know if it was a movie or people in your life, but please, I'm very curious.
Well, would you say like when film touched my life, or when I decided like, hey, I want to be a director? Because that's like two different points in my life.
How about both?
When film touched my life, Ghostbusters,
Nice.
Batman, well, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Like I had those on VHS, and I just remember being really, really young, really small, and just like I would play the film, I would watch Batman, and I would take it out, I would rewind it, start it right again, just eating cereal for like hours, just watching Batman over and over and over again, or just watching Ghostbusters over and over and over and over again. Films like Jurassic Park, films like The Last Dragon. I grew up on like Terminator 2. Like I grew up on like very big American films. Like I didn't get into the independent scene or all these other things until much later in my life, not until basically my 20s. My first job ever was working at a movie theater. I used to work the concession stand at this movie theater in Long Island and Farmingdale. And I got free popcorn, and I could watch, I think I got 4 free movie tickets every week, something like that, something crazy like that. But I used to also just like whenever it was my lunch break, because we got half an hour lunch breaks because it's trash and it's minimum wage. So whenever that would happen, I would go watch a movie. So it would take me like sometimes a month to finish watching a film because I would just like always come in like odd parts of the time. Like I remember it took me like a month to finish Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, the one that came out in like 2002,
I think
3
it
or
was
whatever.
2003.
Yeah, right.
2003, right?
We,
Yeah,
we,
that sounds
we
about
call
right.
we call that the dark times.
Yeah.
That one was,
It took me like a month
that
to
one was
finish
actually
watching that film. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said that one was one of the better remakes that came out during that whole portion of like, let's remake all the great horror movies of the 80s.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad to me. Like I was like, oh, this is, because I think I actually saw that before I saw the original. Actually.
Same.
Yeah. But yeah. What else? When a film touched my life? Oh man, it's like it's always been a part of it, But I never really thought of myself. I never thought that could be a career for me. Like it never even crossed my mind. Like it was something that was just like, it was so grand and so big. Saying like, I want to be a director. That's like saying, I want to be an astronaut. I want to, like that's how big it was to me because, I would watch like behind the scenes of like music videos. You guys remember that MTV shows like Making the Video?
Yeah.
I might be too old for you. That might be too old for you guys. I don't know. But they used to show like these behind the scenes of like making of music videos, and it used to be so big. This is like 1990s music videos, so big. Like it was. So the idea of like being a director, or it wasn't, and it didn't really cross my mind until I was in college and I actually had a camera in my hand. Once I actually started doing it, I was like, I kind of like this. People were also receptive to it as well. Because I had this college class where it was like a television production class. And for our midterm, we could either make a music video or a documentary. So I was like, well, I know 1,000 rappers, so I'll, go shoot a music video. Never shot a music video before. Just pretty much pulling from what I've seen on TV over all these years, like just trying to mimic it. And I remember playing it in class, and like everybody was like kind of impressed by it. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. Like I never really thought of myself as a director. I never, thought like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to be a director. So then, I kind of just stayed with it, from that point on. Like I was just like, well, let me shoot something else. Well, let me learn how to use Final Cut. Well, let me learn how to. It's like, well, how do I light things? Like, how do I make it look like what I see on TV? And then once you say that just takes you down the rabbit hole. Once you say like, oh, I wonder how, this TV show gets its lighting like this. You're going to be. It's going to take you a few years, to answer that question, to like really get it down. And yeah, from there I just loved it because I loved the challenge of it. I love the fact that it was brand new. I love the fact that I could use my brain. Um, I loved and even I even loved the way people started acting towards me once they found out that I was a director. Like I actually like the way people treated me on campus. It was like part of my identity, and I just thought it was like something really really cool. You know, I was just like, oh wow, like I have something that I can like throw myself into and that I can evolve and I can grow with, and it doesn't expire. Like, you know, I can stick with this forever. You know, if I make a great film at 60, then I made a great film at 60. You know, there's no like real expiration date on it. But yeah, that's kind of like how I started with film. Um, as far as horror, whew, wow. Trying to think like the my earliest memories of horror, of course, like Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember being just terrified because I was born in '86, so this was like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm like right in the like crux of like it like really burgeoning and like being this thing in mainstream society. So I had older brothers. So like I remember my older brother, he had like a Freddy Krueger doll. And he used to like kind of torture me with it. I was like, oh, so like try to run away from him. He had this like little ugly Freddy Krueger doll. I hated it. But like, you know, I remember like Tales from the Crypt, that scaring the shit out of me as a kid. Um, what else? I I remember like Bordello of Blood, seeing that was really cool. Candyman. Um, I gotta go. I'm trying to really go down my whole like list of like horror films that have like actually like messed me up over the years. Like seeing them like way too early. I'm trying to think of like. I mean, is Alien technically horror?
The first
Kind of
one,
like haunted
yes.
house, right?
Yeah, the first one definitely is. And there's been some debate, and actually, you'll never meet a bigger Alien and or Predator fan than Zach here. And what is like, it wasn't until you saw the film print of it.
I saw a film print of it in a theater, and that's when I finally just decided to say, yeah, this is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like the first Alien is just a masterpiece. Like if there you need to see, if you ever get a chance to see it in a movie theater, take it. It's such a just a beautiful experience. Like I cannot recommend it anymore.
There's just some things that are just master classes in tension, and that is a master
Right.
class in tension.
Right.
There's no other things. So the last question I have, because I know Brandon wants to get in on the fun, and I know that the rest of the guys do, but you know, when did you just obviously being a fan of horror and making horror is a little different. Most people who make horror movies are fans of horror movies. So I was curious, you know, when did you decide, you know what, like I want to make, because it's a specific genre. It is a specific genre, and people make conscious choices to make horror, you know, films. When did you decide that was for you?
You know, I started to like ease myself towards that direction. I feel even like artistically I was like heading that way without even really knowing it. Like my style of film, because I was still like kind of figuring out like who I am as far as like a writer director. So, you know, I looked at certain things that I was doing well. I was like, I'm able to build tension. I'm able to like build atmosphere. And I started seeing certain films where I was like, oh, wow, I really like this idea of like doing a horror film. Like I saw Under the Skin in theaters. I saw The Witch. And I saw like, even like recently, I saw like It Chapter 1. And I thought that was like, it was like it wasn't like super scary to me per se, but it was just like a really well done, like it really like made Pennywise like come to life, like every single thing about him, like his personality. Like I love when he like gets out of the refrigerator and he kind of like does like a skip towards the kid. I was like, that is so like, it's so great. Like it's because he's just like this weird, bizarre character. But as far as like me, I had this idea of this artist who kind of evokes this evil spirit. So I was kind of playing with that for like a while. I was just like, I had like the concept, but I didn't have a story yet. Um, but once I came across the mythology of Robert Johnson, it's something that I've always heard, but I would refamiliarize myself with it, and I felt like and I also cross referenced it with the actual reality of his life to kind of flesh out a more solid story. So I felt like his mythology was perfect, excuse me, for a short film, and I felt like it was the perfect way to tell it would be in a horror genre, because there have been odes to his mythology in other films. There's like a film called Crossroads, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, as well. They have like
Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny.
exactly,
There's a huge reference to them, and actually a lot of people, and I'm a massive music fan, massive music fan, and in my eyes, there's three people that are responsible for the creation of rock and roll, period, and it's Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Robert Johnson. There's no other important, and actually, if I had to pick one of the three that's the most important, it's Robert Johnson. Nobody recognized the guitar the way that he did, and all the legends that are attached to him. A lot of people don't know, they just don't know who he is, which is disappointing. I'm glad that you took that direction to share that story, because a lot of people they don't know. They don't know about the history of him. And actually, if you go back and listen to some of those old songs, it's crazy to like the stuff that he's doing. Like he did that in the 30s. Like it's commonplace now, but he was doing that shit in the 30s, which is insane.
Right. And if he's kind of like he's like the evolutionary point. It's like after him, it's pretty much we're still living in his era. It's like we're still living post Robert Johnson. There has yet to really be somebody to come and really like shake up a genre or create a genre that way. In all aspects, not just the music, but the culture as well, like how we speak about artists, like everything, like even the mystery surrounding him, the mystery surrounding how he got so good within a year's time, the mystery around his death. There was mystery around where's his guitar now. So like all those things, like once I heard like like nobody knows where his guitar is, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. I was like, nobody knows where his guitar is. I was like, this is perfect. Mythology right here. I mean,
it's crazy. It's him and James Dean's car. Like those are the last like pieces of folklore in American history that still had mystery attached to them. His guitar and James Dean's car, which both disappeared, have no idea where they're at. But that's crazy. That's a crazy reference that you made. That yes, you were absolutely 100% correct. That there's nobody else that shaped folklore like he did, and still hasn't yet today.
Yeah, because people still say these things about current artists. Like you see somebody super successful, they're like, oh, they sold their soul to get there, or it's like they're in the Illuminati. Like these things come from Robert Johnson. This comes from a man who, in reality, took a year's time to like really discipline himself and really learn the craft. But it's like what he was doing during that time. It's like it's actually really interesting, because like he would practice in graveyards because there was nobody else around. Like he was, part of it was like embarrassment, because you're trying to like really do it in isolation. But sometimes people would hear sounds coming from the graveyard. So it's like, oh, it's all these things kind of added to his mystery. It's like, and he was a terror. People say that he was like pretty bad before he disappeared for a year. It was to the point where people would like boo him. Like they were like, do not put him on stage. I do not want to hear this man. He was so shy. Like sometimes he would play with his back turned towards people. And I tried to add that in the movie as well, where when he plays for oh my god, how am I missing the names of the artists in that film? Sylvia? Yeah. So he makes her turn around before he plays for her because that was a common thing he would do. Like he didn't want people to watch him play at times. So yeah, I was trying to like incorporate all these like little tidbits from his mythology and like, you know, pack it into, you know, a short film.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Nice. All right.
Go ahead, B man.
You look like you're waiting for me.
No,
All right.
I am waiting for you because I know you got questions.
Yeah, so I remember when we spoke to you briefly at New Jersey, and I think you said this when you accepted your award as well, that the Dark Strums was your first outright horror project.
Right.
And you sent us a couple of your earlier shorts as well, and I was able to watch them. And I watched them in reverse chronological order. So I watched Dark Strums first, Tastes Like Medicine, then Voodoo. And even going back to Voodoo and also Tastes Like Medicine, I do see influences of the horror genre in both of those. So I'm glad you brought up that you looked at what you were doing well and it just kind of geared you towards horror, because I totally saw the stepping stones in your earlier work leading to the horror piece. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about your two earlier works, and then we'll dive into Dark Strums a little more. So the earliest piece that you sent us was the Voodoo, which on Vimeo it said it was posted on there 5 years ago. So I take it that's probably earlier in your director's career. Were there any shorts before that one that you had done, or was this your first narrative?
Yeah, that's my first narrative. Yeah, that's my first narrative short ever. Before that, I was mostly just doing music videos. You know, I was just like freelance or just doing like freelance work. I've done work for like publications and stuff. Just freelancing, trying to make ends meet. But you know, I was like, you know what, I want to make a film. And again, I don't know where this idea for this film came. It was just like, well, I just started writing, and I was just like, okay, the Voodoo, whatever. And I was kind of like piecing things together. So like I had met this burlesque dancer. Her name is Voodoo. Like that's her stage name. So I like once I encountered her, I was just like, oh, it would be interesting if there was like this, you know, succubus kind of creature that's, you know, just like snatching up men. Again, I didn't think of this as horror. I just thought of it like a weird, artsy film, you know, because there's no like gore, there's no special effects. You know, this is my understanding of horror at the time. So I didn't really like place it in that. So to me, it was more like me trying to do my best David Lynch impression. You know, like it was like that to me. So yeah, that was my first narrative short. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's I really liked the experimental feel of it. It does feel like a David Lynch piece, how you mentioned it. I really liked and I have this to say about your other two works as well, but I really liked the use of color in the Voodoo, how it starts off just very faded, and you think that's what the movie's going to look like, and then once the burlesque dancer that you mentioned shows up, it's suddenly this vivid pink, and I just love the contrast and the use of color in the two the two locations.
Thank you.
So what was your inspiration for that, like for the style of Voodoo? Because Brandon talked about how it started off very like saturated black and white, and then we have, you know, the full color of the Voodoo woman coming in, which is awesome because it definitely influences and catches our eye, and her dance is very seductive. So what was your like inspiration for that style for the film?
I was trying to create this like I was trying to like create like this other world, almost kind of like a void in like space and time. Like there's this like this is just like her world right here. Like these colors and this brightness that only exist within her you're within her grasp, once you're within her reach. You know, this is like what it feels like to be with this succubus. You know, like this is how it's that vivid. It's like it's warm yet extremely intense at the same time. Like that's what I kind of wanted it to feel like. And also it's like, you know, I don't know, I just feel like the color pink, if it's like intense enough, it can be kind of frightening. I think so, you know, or at least I wanted to make pink violent. You know, I wanted it to intimidate people once they saw it. I wanted the colors to hit them. I wanted the noise to hit them. I wanted her dancing, the sound of like the wings, fluttering, all these things. I wanted to communicate that as much as possible, you know, because that's what I kind of envisioned this otherworld entity to have. You know, it's like something about it is beautiful, but it's also extremely intense.
Yeah, I felt that feeling when I was watching it, and then like I got caught up because it happened like abruptly. So we had the black and white, and then we shifted to the color. And then I felt that feeling. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Zach, do you have anything before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, for the second piece, why did you choose to go with black and white for that picture? That was something I was kind of curious about.
For Taste Like Medicine?
Taste Like Medicine, yes. I'm terrible.
Oh, why did I? Oh, again, doing my David Lynch in like impression. You know, I think I maybe had just saw Eraserhead for the first time, or something around that time. And I just loved. I love the contrast of black and white. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I wanted to kind of mute everything else, and I just kind of wanted to lull people into like this false sense of security with this black and white, because it kind of gives you it's like there's like a certain rhythm, I feel like, to black and white that I wanted to break at a different part of the film. I wanted to break the reality a different way through black and white. So yeah, that's kind of why I chose the black and white. And I just love the way it looks aesthetically. I've always loved black and white. Always.
Oh, nice. Just real quick though, just while we're on the black and white topic and everything else, you know, obviously we are an educational podcast for young filmmakers out there, people who are, hey, you know, I'm interested in everything else. What's a piece of advice that you would have for any of these filmmakers that are coming up and they said, I want to mess around with black and white with my film. You know, I want to get involved in that. You know, I think that this should be, you know, this piece should be black and white. You know, what's some advice that you have for those filmmakers that want to turn their piece black and white?
I say do it.
Okay,
that's my advice. Do it.
Easy
like,
enough.
It's I don't know. I still feel like it's classic. It's like wearing a tuxedo. You know, it's like if somebody's like, I want to wear a tuxedo. It's like, go buy one. Yes, absolutely. Go wear a tuxedo. You know,
I think that's the best analogy I've heard all day.
Yeah. It's very classic. You know, I still, because I've thought about turning Taste Like Medicine into a feature, and I was like, if I do it, I'm probably gonna do it in black and white. You know, like I saw. I haven't seen The Lighthouse yet, but I want to see it mainly because it's in black and white, and I know like certain things are gonna look very, very cool, you know, in that format. I've always liked it. Yeah, I say go do it. I would also suggest to plan ahead. Don't just like shoot it and then it's like, maybe I should turn it into black and white, because you could have like, you know. You could have prepped for black and white a little bit more, because you might wind up, you know, muting certain things that you don't want to. Okay. So I would just suggest just do your research beforehand. Talk with your DP. You guys sit there and you plan it out how you want it to look black and white. Do some test shots. Yeah, really plan it out, because if you're gonna make it black and white, like try to make it as beautiful as possible, as you should.
And you shot that one digitally?
Excuse me?
You shot Taste Like Medicine on digital cameras?
Yeah, we shot that on Red Epic,
Or,
I believe. Yeah.
Did you use a black and white profile, or did you shoot in color and then turn it black and white in post?
We shot in color and then turned it black and white in post.
Cool. So did you have a black and white LUT on a monitor? So like, how did you account for how it would look in the final black and white image as you're on set?
Ironically, what I would do is we would actually use a ton of color on set. So, there's actually like a lot of color gels on it. Like if I showed you the long version, or not the long version, but like the original version of the film, it's actually full of color. But I use that as a way to kind of like show distinction between certain things. Like, the intensity of the colors, once you desaturate them, it still like it shapes the people within the frame a little bit differently. It's kind of like markers and guides as to how you want to do it. And because it's not just also one type of black and white. There's like a whole spectrum of black and white. So I didn't want to just shoot true black and white because I didn't know what black and white we were going to do. But I definitely wanted I wanted to shoot it as if it wasn't going to be black and white. But I knew it was going to be, but it was I put blues right here so I can like separate the foreground from the background so I can see what I wanted to do as things were happening.
Nice.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yes, and you said you had not seen The Lighthouse yet?
I have not. I've been really bad when it comes to seeing films lately. Like really, really, really bad. I have not seen The Lighthouse yet, but I want to see it.
I do recommend it. I actually read an article about how they achieved the specific look of black and white that they got for it, because they wanted to replicate the look of the very earliest days of photography, back when it would only take in the blue light and the green light, but no red light. So therefore, skin tones were very dark, skies were very dark as well. And what they did was they shot it on actual black and white film. But of course, black and white film today is different than how it was back then. Right. So they actually got Schneider to make a custom filter for them to take out the red light that they didn't want. And they also used old lenses from the 30s and 40s. And it's really amazing the amount of research and development that they put into creating that specific black and white look for it.
Wow.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Zach, did you have something from earlier? I saw you trying to jump in the pipe. All right, cool.
But yeah, I really liked Tastes Like Medicine. I thought you really captured that feeling of awkwardness and frustration in the main character. How, especially those scenes where like himself is like, he's watching himself yelling at these people and being frustrated with them, but also it brings the question of, is that the real version of him, or is it the one that's being passive? Is that the real one of him? I really liked the feeling you created there. And the way that it ends, it actually reminded me a lot of the Coen Brothers movie Inside Llewyn Davis. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No.
It's about a folk singer in the 1960s whose life just keeps spiraling, he just makes bad decision after bad decision, and the way that it ends, like the ending is the same as the beginning, but it's all chronological, so it creates this feeling that his life is just one cycle that repeats itself. And I thought the ending of Tastes Like Medicine had a very similar feel to that it really stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean thank you. That's what I really wanted. I did have this this anxiety behind like being caught in this being caught in a vicious cycle where I don't have control, where I'm just going through the emotions and things just kind of start all over again, and I'm like, wait, how long have I been doing this? Like, it bleeds in like various facets of my life. It can feel like that when you're at a job. It's like how long have I been working here? It's like 4 years. It's like, holy shit. It's like that kind of feeling But yeah, it's about this guy who he's kind of like he's limited in his emotions. So it's like if you don't change anything, you're kind of like doomed to repeat yourself over and over and over and over and over again. And it's kind of like a warning to, I know this is like a hot topic nowadays, but like toxic masculinity. It's kind of like a warning towards that because Drew is somebody that rarely takes blame for anything in his life. Like he's somebody who kind of like spews and projects, and part of him knows that it's like it's not what you should be doing. That's why he's watching himself just completely lose his shit. And I felt like that before. I felt like when I've like lost my temper, I felt like part of me is just like, you need to calm down. But I'm already, I've already lost it. I've already like, going crazy. And, it was really, that film was like kind of cathartic for me a little bit. It was like kind of like spewing out a demon, a part of me, like from like my early 20s that I didn't want anymore. I didn't want to be somebody who lost their temper and lost control and was it's pretty much it. Like I just didn't want that part of my life. It's not saying like that film parallels my life because it isn't. I've never, shown up to a baby shower drunk and cursed everybody out.
God,
but I was like, you know what?
I hope they serve beer in hell. They, God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
That's
You never read that book?
nope.
Or seen that? Oh, the book's fucking fantastic. It's hilarious. It's literally about a like a giant bro who refuses to grow up, and he's the biggest douche in the world. Literally shows up on acid to a 3-year-old's birthday party of one of his friends. And then like, and there's one scene like where where he eats something horrible, and he has a horrible like stomach thing and everything else, and he's begging to God to have it stop. And he begs to all the gods, and then finally he begs to the devil. And the devil's like, "I'm not giving you shit. You're already coming to hell. Why would I want to give you anything?" Yeah, no, I get that. I get using art to exercise demons. It's good. It's a good. I mean, there's countless artists throughout history who have done it. It's a perfect idea. I have a lot of respect for people who do that, who use it as an exercise. I mean, that's what art is. It's subjective. It should be something personal to you, even if it's not your life. It doesn't have to mirror your life. It doesn't have to be a biopic. But yeah, no. I have a lot of respect for you in that regard because a lot of people will make things that are superficial or things that people, I think the general public will like this instead of actually making something that's personal and means something to you. Which I respect, which half the time it doesn't even work anyway when somebody makes something for the general consumption because most of the audiences are pretty smart and they can smell that bullshit from 10 miles away. So it's pretty cool, man. It's cool that you were able to express something that you were feeling through a medium.
Thank you.
Did you produce your earlier pieces as well? I know you produced the Dark Strums. Did you produce the earlier pieces as well?
Yeah, I mean, but when you say produce, like it wasn't like produce, like it was like me and like my friends. Like, it was.
Oh yeah. Well, like what was like process and like getting crew on board basically? Did you know most of your crew? Like mainly like the cinematographer, and what was the process like working with that cinematographer for each one of the films to create your vision?
Okay, so for the Voodoo, I was a cinematographer. I used to actually shoot everything. It wasn't until Taste Like Medicine was the first time I ever worked with a DP. Everything else, I shot, I color corrected, I did the editing, producing, casting, craft services, everything. When it came to the Voodoo. So funny thing about Taste Like Medicine. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a movie. I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a fucking movie, and I'm gonna do it the right way. And you know, I got with this this producer who I met. I actually met this producer when I used to work at this sneaker store. So I'm gonna go off on a little tangent. So like years ago, like after college, I got kicked off my parents' insurance, and I like was being terrible, like drinking for a loco all the time, and I wound up like chipping one of my teeth, one of my tooth, like it's like broke in my mouth, and I had to go like get an extraction. So I had to go get a shitty job. I couldn't get a job out of college. So I wound up working at the sneaker store. Super depressing. Because I actually remember somebody who showed up to my job once. I used to shoot music videos, and there was this one guy who was like kind of hanging around the set, and he was like asking me questions, and he was like interviewing me. And then, you know, I'm selling sneakers one day, and this guy's like, Steven? And I was like, what's up? He's like, hey, man, what's up? He's like, you remember me? I was at your music video, like, last year. He's like, yeah, man, I moved out to LA. I'm like, you know, I got these gigs. I'm doing these things. I'm just like, oh, my goodness. I was like, what size do you want? I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So I hated working there. But so one day, this guy comes into the store, and he has like a camera bag. So I was like, hey, I was selling him shoes. I'm like, hey, you know, I shoot as well. I was like, oh, do you shoot anything? He's like, yeah, I do something. I was like, yeah, you know, if you ever need somebody to like, you know, shoot anything for you, whatever. He's like, yeah, that's cool, man. He gives me his business card. And, you know, when people give you business cards, it could be like whatever. So, you know, I take his business card, I go home, and I was going to email him to like send him some of my stuff. And I was like, somebody told me just Google this guy really quick. I Googled him. He worked for like MTV, BET, VH1. Like he's been producing like a lot of big shows, a lot of live events, whatever. So he was like super cool. His name is Ramon Bug. And you know, from that day, he wrote me a job recommendation. I was able to like, you know, get out of that job and like really start moving towards my career. And for like a month, like a whole summer, I bugged him. I was like, "Can you please read my script? Can you please read my script?" He's like, "All right. I'm in Dallas right now." I was like, "All right, please read my script. Just please read my script." So he finally goes back to script. Like, he's like, "You know, I actually like it." I was like, "Well, you know, would you produce it?" So I was just like, "All right, I have a real producer." I was like, and we'll get a real DP. So he recommends this DP. His name is Sean Peters. He had done some feature work. He's also done like a lot of music videos. I think his most recently he's been doing stuff like HBO. So we were on deck to like he was on deck to like work on my film. I'm super excited. We're planning out everything. I'm like I want tilt shift lenses. I want anamorphic lenses. I want, you know, all the pretentious things that, you know, a filmmaker could want. And maybe I think 3 or 4 days before we were about to shoot, he falls down a flight of stairs. He falls down a flight of stairs out, and he's just like, I can't shoot. He's like, I can't shoot your film. You know, I fell down the stairs, and I was like, holy shit. You know, I already paid for insurance. I already, you know, booked these places, and it's not like I could, you know, take these things back. It's like this is a very, very micro budget film. So, you know, I used to smoke at that time. So, you know, after I, you know, finished smoking and getting my mind together, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna go on YouTube. I'm just gonna figure out how to use a red cam, and we're gonna just shoot this shit. I was like, we're just gonna shoot it. So yeah, I actually wound up reaching out to one of my friends, Oliver, who was the DP on the Dark Strums.
Yes.
We had known each other for years. And he's always been more technically sound than I was. So I was just like, yo, can you just shoot? So he just jumped on last minute. We didn't really have time to plan anything, so we were kind of just like, you know, feeling it out as we went along. But yeah, like that Tastes Like Medicine was a crazy experience. The lead actor Damien, the second day of our shoot, he shows up a little bit late, and he's like, sorry, I'm late. He's like, I burned myself this morning while making breakfast. So I was like, oh, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. So he's walking around set, and I'm thinking he's in character. I'm thinking because he's walking around very intense. I'm thinking because he's like, this method actor. I'm thinking he's in character. So you can see like that whole day where he's the whole baby shower scene. He's actually suffering from second-degree burns that whole time. So I didn't know this, right? So after we wrapped the second day, he's like, all right, I'm going to the emergency room. I was like, emergency room? I was like, what's... So he showed pictures later on that day. Like, yeah, like his arm had like keloid up. Like it was like pretty intense. Yeah, Tastes Like Medicine was like a hellish journey. It was crazy. Like trying to make that film.
Damn,
All actors are crazy, man.
No, he is absolutely the craziest.
Yeah, I've been acting since I was 10, and I think I guess we're just wired differently. Like I don't know how else to describe it. I remember having like a sprained, like an actual tendon sprained in both sides of my knee during a play, and it was caused by lacing up steel toe boots for a play I was in, and I would have to jump off the stage every night, and I did it every night, and it tore up my knee for that. But my mind just went somewhere else. Like I was like, no, I'm in this play. I'm acting this play. I think I'd say 90% of actors live by the mantra of the show must go on. I don't give a shit about what's going on with me. Like the rest of this stuff has to go on. And the show has to go on, and we'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. So I a lot of people, I'm laughing at that story because I'm laughing for a different. Most people are horrified. They're like, oh my god, he went through the whole thing. I'm like, no, that's what we do. We're crazy.
Yeah.
The joke I've always made was get two people together and have them both pretend to be different people and have them talk to each other. You know what you call that? You call that rec time at the local insane asylum. That's recreational time over there. Yeah, you put a camera in front of them, or you put an audience in front of them, and you charge people money to see it. Call that acting.
Right.
So there's not
pretty
much.
accurate.
There's not much space in between those realities. So yeah, nothing about that story surprises me.
Get you the same ever again.
Oh, I believe it.
What the hell have you been looking at this whole time?
Really. What if you second date or
we're confused now.
They're confused about you right now.
I guess he's the only one who hasn't done any acting at all. Wait, have you done any acting at all? Okay.
Well, yeah. If you've done any kind of, I recommend it to everybody. It's a freeing activity.
It's super fun, especially when you get to murder somebody on camera.
He's done it to me. Have you know what? Just out of curiosity, have you ever done any cameo? I didn't really notice, but did you do any cameos in the films? Did you ever want to do any Hitchcock cameos?
I did in the Dark Strums.
Really?
Huh. I'm so happy that nobody noticed that.
I did not know.
Where?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna tell us, or you're gonna make us go back and look? Actually, okay. You know what? Actually, no. Don't tell, because we're live right now. That way, the audience will be like, "Where?"
Oh
Yeah.
Keep it a secret. So
I'm in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're almost
very brief second.
You're almost as bad as him with post. Like there's in some of our episodes of Living Nightmares, there's things that are still wrong with it, and he refuses to tell us because we've never noticed. Maybe in a couple of years, like when we're done with the series, he'll go back and say, yeah, this is what that is. But he refuses to tell us because he's like, you haven't noticed by now. You're never gonna notice.
Are you one of the cars that drives by?
No.
Okay.
That's that would be hilarious.
I was gonna say that's kind of cheating.
Are you actually, like, are you physically in it?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not some weird.
I'm in it. I have a small piece of dialogue.
And you have dialogue.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not Hitchcock. It's not a Hitchcock cameo where he's like just in the background. The that's a fun game to play, by the way, when you're watching Hitchcock movies. Like it's like the film version of Where's Waldo.
Yeah.
Like you'll catch
That'd be
it.
fun.
Psycho. When she's in the secretary office and then she's looking at the money. If you look in the window in the background, he walks.
The cowboy hat.
He walks right in front in the bit. Like, oh, there's Hitchcock. He's in almost every movie, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much every movie. Which I'm going to circle back to that in just a second. Which I kind of feel bad now that I can't think of where you are.
I think I know.
But
Wait,
I wasn't looking for you either.
True.
What's it called? This therapist?
That's it. That's me.
Yeah, that's the only other thing. I'm just like, there's no other place he could possibly be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's me.
Oh.
That's me. I was like that.
Which, just to tackle the Hitchcock cameos real quick, you want to know what I think his two most creative ones are?
No, yeah, I want to hear this.
Rope, which just takes place in one room, and that's the movie that he tried to make it look like it was all one shot. His cameo in that one is, the famous Alfred Hitchcock silhouette drawing? Yeah. There's a neon sign outside the window of that silhouette drawing.
Wow.
And then Lifeboat just takes place on a single lifeboat in the ocean after a boat got destroyed. At the beginning of the movie, there are these bits of newspaper floating in the water. Mm-hmm. One of the pictures on one of those newspapers is a picture of Hitchcock.
Wow.
Pictures don't count.
That's like elite. Like putting yourself in the film. That's so like putting yourself on like a drifting piece of newspaper is next level. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
It's a level of ego that is just it's almost mythic. Like it's
I will live on forever.
It's I shall live in all of my films forever. Good luck finding me, asshole.
Mythology, like the Greek mythology, everything has like their one god or person that just embodies ego. Thousands of years from now, when they're looking back at our culture, it's like, and Alfred Hitchcock was the director of Ego.
Yeah, no,
that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's gonna be. He
was something.
He certainly was something.
Oh, yeah.
The Jimmy Stewart, go be in a movie again. I was just in one last week. Go do it again.
That's actually a really, really interesting behind the scenes information about Tastes Like Medicine. Unless you guys have anything about Voodoo or Tastes Like Medicine, I think. No. So do we want to take a quick break before we really dive into Dark Strums?
Yeah, absolutely. We can take a break. Cool.
All right. Okay. See you for a break.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. All right, so we're back from our break. We just talked about two of your earlier films, The Voodoo and Tastes Like Medicine. But you're here to talk about the Dark Strums. So, we covered a lot of the inspiration with Tommy Johnson earlier on in the podcast, which is actually really interesting background that Tommy Johnson is something that's like, as you and Mark were talking about it, and I kind of looked him up a little bit on the break, and I've always kind of known about elements of him, but I've never actually known about him himself. Like you mentioned, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, covered him a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's who that is. So that's really interesting background for the Dark Strums. Before we get into some of our questions, do you want to tell our audience what the Dark Strums is about?
And about your wardrobe change?
Oh yeah, my wardrobe. This is Owen Hart hoodie with a third eye. Rest in peace to Owen Hart. He sees it all. So yeah, the Dark Strums is about like my log line is a musician has been rumored to have sold their soul to the devil to learn how to play the guitar. And I wrote it that way because it's kind of like it is like a very old story, a very old myth that can be applicable in any day or time. You know, you swap out guitar with something else, or you know, music with something else for film or for whatever. But yeah, it's about the guitar of Robert Johnson, a blues musician who was rumored to have sold his soul to the devil. And that guitar makes its way to present day, and somebody, a struggling musician, she encounters it, and it kind of is like a Pandora's box kind of situation when she opens it or starts playing it, I should say.
Yeah, it's one thing I really liked about it is it does start in Tommy Johnson's time, and then it cuts to present day. And it's, now that I said it out loud, it's, that's one thing I really like about all three pieces of your work that I watched is it starts out as you think it's going to be one thing, and then it becomes something else. And the transitions are always very, even though they're very abrupt, they feel very organic to the story, which I think is a very balanced strike sometimes. Um, so we talked about the inspiration of the story. Tell us a little bit about the pre-production for the Dark Strums. I noticed that you had, I mentioned you had the same DP for this as you had for Tastes Like Medicine. I'd known him for a few years. There were obviously some period costumes for the beginning of the Dark Strums.
Right.
So it's like, what went into gathering the resources for what needed to be on the screen to bring this story to life?
Oh wow. So let's see, where should I start? Maybe should I start with wardrobe? Maybe.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
Start wherever you feel
So
natural.
okay. So I mean wardrobe. So I did the wardrobe. So I mean, the funny thing about Robert Johnson is that there isn't a ton of photos of him. There's like maybe three. And even if you like, I follow the hashtag Robert Johnson on Instagram to see like what people, because sometimes people make like fan work and fan artwork of Robert Johnson. It's usually of this three same pictures. You know, there's like one with him. He has like a hat on. He has a hat on. He has a suit. Yeah, there's that one. He's holding a guitar. There's another one where he's smoking a cigarette. That's the one that's actually my avatar on the Dark Strums Instagram. There's that one, and I feel like there's another one where he's like standing with someone. So I was just like, well, that's kind of what I guess that's what his what he's gonna have to wear. So there was like a lot of things that when I was like trying to like build his aesthetic, you know, for one, I had to have an actor that kind of looked like him, or that could at very least like, you know, bring this kind of like presence, this mysterious presence. Because, you know, there's no like, I don't think it's like any like real interviews with him, at least that I haven't heard. So it's just like his music and what people have said about him. So, you know, I needed somebody who looked the part of 1930s and that could like also kind of merge somebody who could be extremely mysterious and kind of like have something behind their mask the whole time. But yeah, as far as like his wardrobe, I got that hat like off of Amazon. Just like look for, I got one of those hats on Amazon. For Sylvia, I got her dress and hat off of Etsy. I did some research as to like 1930s apparel. And you know the actress Kaylin, you know she's like this gorgeous woman. So I, you know, tried to find something that could kind of like compliment her a little bit. You know, I wanted her to kind of be like a you know, like somebody who like definitely like stand out as like a very beautiful woman in the 1930s, but also at the same time come from very humble beginnings. So it was like trying to find. So we like leaned more into like her physical beauty, like make sure like her makeup was just like pristine, but also just like very simple. Maybe what a church girl in 1930s Mississippi might wear. You know, something that's extremely conservative, kind of free flowing, but it's also have to like account for the weather as well. You know, something that's kind of humid, loose flowing, and also the color of like the brown. I like the three primary colors I try to use in this film were brown, green, and blue. So like it's like you see that like in the first scene, you know, you kind of see like the brown within the guitar, the blue on Elma, like on her, and what she's wearing. And when they get to the ballroom scene, there's like blue in the background, a lot of browns, greens, and things like that. So that's how I kind of like came to for her design. And I got the guitar off of eBay. Now that isn't the guitar I used in the Dark Strums isn't what Robert Johnson used. It was oh man, I think he played a Gibson, if I'm not mistaken. But it's not. So. I actually have that guitar, like the Dark Strums guitar, like right there, in my living room. But I chose like the guitar I used in the film was more of like a stylistic choice to kind of like give it a kind of like really vintage feel. It's like because I could have just used a Gibson, but I don't think like it would have been as visually striking to be like, oh, this is an evil guitar or this is a special guitar. You know, like that guitar has like a little like little paisley design on it as well, and you know, I just wanted something that was kind of like eye catching as far as the guitar is, because it's a big part of the film. You know, like when the guitar is slammed on the counter at the antique store and it's opened, I kind of wanted people to be like, oh, that's a pretty cool guitar, or it looks like a guitar that a blues musician would have played in the 1930s. It's not like historically accurate, but you know, this film isn't historically accurate, period. It's very much different
story.
oh, sorry, what did you say?
I said, don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm riffing off of history more than anything. I'm not like, you know, married to just like, oh, it has to be this Gibson from 19, and it has to have like, you know, because the guitar had to look used as well. And like it had to look used, it had to look unique, it had to look rustic, it had to have all these things. So put a lot of time into finding that. It took me about 2 months to find that guitar. Just, you know, looking at stuff on eBay because it's got to work within budget, all those things. Let's see what else. Okay, so as far as the DP, my DP Oliver, he was also like producer on the film as well. So we had known each other for years, and we both work in Midtown Manhattan, so we work maybe about like 10 minutes away from each other at most, like walking distance, Manhattan. So we would meet up and we would just talk about like, you know, we had both been just doing our regular day-to-day jobs. We were just like, you know, we got to get back to filming. We have to get back to filming. We have to get back to filming. When are we going to shoot something? When are we going to shoot something? So, you know, I finally came up with something. I finally had something. And I was just like, yo, would you be interested in shooting this? You know, like I had never, you know, done horror up until that point, but I knew what I wanted to do with the film. And I knew that he is somebody that is extremely technical, somebody who, you know, works with cameras all the time. And he was like really excited because, you know, he doesn't really get the opportunity to like shoot things like that anymore. I think he does like a lot of like editorial stuff nowadays, but you know, he kind of was like, yeah, like, yo, let's do this. So we like, you know, produced this together. You know, we went out, we shot part of this in Pennsylvania. We shot part of this in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So like the opening scene at the lake, That's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But we found like this perfect framing. I was just like, oh, this kind of looks like the Mississippi River, kind of, So we had to, make Pennsylvania look like Mississippi. And the ballroom scene also takes place in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So we were able to get like a pretty good deal on that ballroom. And yeah, so we shot that in Pennsylvania. So we drove out there beforehand. We were taking pictures. We were, getting our permits. We were, doing what we needed to do to get that film rolling. Initially, we were supposed to shoot the whole film out there. There's actually a lot that I wrote that did not make it into the film. Like, Elma was supposed to kill way more people. Like way more people. But budget. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because she was supposed to it was gonna be like Taste Like Medicine times 10 as far as like, going off at a party. It was supposed to be, bodies flying through the walls and all types of crazy stuff. But then I was just like, oh, maybe I don't have enough money for all of this stuff. So but yeah, there's there's a lot that, went into this film for pre-production. Even with all that being said, like it was still kind of hard to account for everything because you're still fighting time to still like trying to get everything right. And it was my first time working with a crew that big as well. It wasn't like a super big crew, but it was the first time me directing a crew of that size. So it was, I had the challenge of like trying to navigate through all of that and working through different people's like pacing and how they normally work. But yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to get the look of the film right. Because I knew the story was there. And even as I was taking things out, just like throwing things out, like, oh, I guess I can't shoot that scene. Oh, I guess I can't shoot that scene. I was like, all right, at the very least, I know what I want to say with this film. I know what the fear is with this film. I know it's, it's about, the fear that of the fear that comes with artistic integrity, the fear of like perception, the fear of, me doing something that I can't take back just because I want fame, or I want to chase my dreams so bad that I'm willing to like disregard everything along the way. So I knew that fear was there. I knew that was the centerpiece of the story. So even as I didn't get to rip everybody through the walls and blood splatter all over the place like I wanted to, I was like, all right, I at the very least know that this is it works as a story.
Nice, very cool.
So while we're on the subject of like pre-production, how did you go about casting for Dark Strums? Like, what was your process? Did you go to backstage? Did they send you auditions?
I did. I did backstage. So I did kind of like an open call. And for like her real name is Olivia. For Elma, I found Olivia beforehand because I was like, all right, so I need a Black woman with big natural hair that can play the guitar, who can play the blues, who can also act. I was like, I need all of these things, right? And I found her. It was like if I showed you the script for this film, it's almost like I described her to a T. And I was just like, holy shit. I was like, this is perfect. And she she does like she does musicals and all those things. But she wrote all the well, there's only like really one song in the film, but she wrote that. She made that up right there on the spot. I was like, can you just like make something up? I was like, can you just do something? She was like, yeah. And then she made You Got Me Up All Night Long. And I was like, oh, that is so creepy. I really like that because it's like, it's bluesy, but at the same time, it's like, as I played it on the loop for the trailer, it's like, it feels kind of like this haunting that's kind of there. Like you have me up all night long. I can't sleep. I can't do anything. Like there's something watching me, kind of. So she was, perfect, like dead on for it. For Sylvia, which is Kaylin, she when I saw her and she was acting like she was perfect because she's from Texas, and so she was able to kind of do the Southern accent without like having to overdo it. It was very, very natural to her. She also has like this playfulness to herself. So I was like, oh, she's perfect. But she has like really short hair, like a really short modern cut. I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? And I was like, I'll just get her a wig. I was like, this is a movie. I'll just get her a wig. It just never crossed my mind. I was like, oh, I'll just get.
I love it. I love it. This is the movies, man.
It's the movie. Like, I was just like, oh. Yeah, I was like, oh man, she has a short modern haircut. What am I gonna do? I was like, oh, just put a wig on her because it's a movie.
It's crazy. It reminds me. There's an interview with Russell Crowe talking about acting, and he's like, just sometimes the most obvious choices are the best ones, and everything else. Yeah. He's like, start making decisions when you get a part. You play a fucking pirate, get yourself a wood leg and a parrot, and just go from there. Like, you'll figure it out eventually. Just start making decisions and everything else. I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It reminds me of like something what my professor said. When I was in film school, I was like, we're in the illusion business, all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which professor was that?
Michael Wright.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was like right in front of me. It was like so obvious, but I didn't buy it myself. I gave her the money. I was like, you pick that out because I have no idea. I'm not gonna buy you a wig and it looks crazy on camera, So she invoiced me and I paid for the wig. And she was amazing. Who else was in the film? The birthday boy. I actually had to change that actor last minute because we had this other guy that was he was kind of giving me weird vibes after the audition. He was kind of like, well, maybe I can make it, maybe not,
What?
I was like, okay, cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I can make it, maybe I won't. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm like, all right, whatever, dude.
Sound like the shadiest insurance salesman ever.
Yeah.
Maybe your house will burn down, maybe it won't. You might want to pay for this. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very like, But so I was like, all right, I'm gonna probably have to recast this part anyway. I did. I had to recast it. I found this guy, John Coulter. He actually lived in the Pennsylvania area, which was perfect. So he sent over some auditions. And he had he's this really big guy, which is kind of like a teddy bear kind of vibe. And it was that would be super sad to see him go. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if we show him on screen, what happens to him, I was like, it's gonna hit people in a different way because, like you said, my style, I do things abruptly, but I want it to also kind of feel like we've been kind of leading up to this point anyway. Once it happens, it's not a break from reality. It's more shocking than anything. So that goes to everything that was in the frame, where they are, the lighting, who the people are seeing on camera, because they only have a few seconds to connect with these characters before they're gone. Otherwise, when people start dying, it could just be it's oh yeah, that person just died, whatever. I want people to be like, oh shit, oh, what is this? Why is this happening? And the last was the antique store worker. I actually work with him, and he's he's that's my friend Lee, and he's just normally a very funny person. And I was like, that can give a different rhythm, or it can break the monotony of the film a little bit, kind of give it a different kind of rhythm, a different kind of pace as well. He really brought that to the film.
Nice, very cool.
There are also a couple VFX shots in the movie as well, particularly with the eyes going black as the guitar is being played. Was there any kind of prep that needed to be done for that? And then there's another shot that Zach and I wanted to ask you about when at the birthday party that nobody showed up to, when he finally, that reflection shot. Was that an actual reflection, or is that a VFX shot as well?
That was a VFX shot.
Okay.
So the way, so yeah, the what's the name of our VFX artist? I think his name is Sean Welch, I believe. He's I found him because he did like another horror short that was like kind of went viral. I think it was called like The Ringing, or it was a short film about like this guy keeps hearing like this ringing noise, and then like this monster shows up. Whatever, he did like this crazy VFX for it, like this woman's face like it's like this huge like gory fangs or whatever. So he was like kind of familiar with like doing like horror stuff. So I consulted with him beforehand. He told us like, all right, so this is how, because I'd never really done VFX like that before. So I was like, all right, so how do I have to shoot this so that you have the right things to piece it together? So like the chandelier shot, we film the chandelier, so we get like super close up on the chandelier. We film the chandelier first, and then you turn the camera around and you film from the POV of the chandelier, and then you take that image and you wrap it around the chandelier. So that's how we were able to like get that shot.
Because it looked like a reflection, but I was thinking, no, I know how those reflect. If that was real, it'd look all like messy and not clear. So you can tell me you did one hell of a job on that one.
Yeah, because I had no, like, I knew what I wanted it to look like, because I also wanted that scene to be as tasteful as possible, like as tasteful and shocking as possible, and also cool. I wanted it to be like a cool shot, like that's the one shot that everybody keeps talking about when they talk about the film. I feel like that's what kind of won us the best cinematography award. It was like, it was a lot of things, but I feel like that shot is what, because the people are always like, whoa, how did you do that? Because and as far as the other VFX shots, like there's like maybe 3 or 4. Like the other one is like really super subtle when the body is underground and the blood is like, I made sure the blood runs just like very slightly, just like give it some sort of like motion. And of course, like the eyes blacking out. I think that was pretty simple. Like we just shot that straight forward, and he just fixed that in post. Yeah.
Very cool.
And speaking of good shots, I really love the look of the opening scene at the Mississippi River. Because like a lot of times, like when you're shooting day exteriors, depending on the time of day and everything, the shots can look extremely contrasty. Like you might have a blown out sky, or you might have an actor just completely in shadows. But everything just looked like everything just looked balanced and peaceful. It looks like it would be at the Mississippi River. And it doesn't have that extreme contrast that would inform you at first that this is going to be a horror film. So it really does feel a feeling of anything can happen. So how was the look of those outdoor shots created? Did you have any additional lighting on hand, or was that just how it was?
No. There's definitely additional lighting. It was, I mean, yeah, shooting outdoors is ridiculous. It's very ridiculous, especially when you're running behind schedule. And because we got super lucky with that scene, because it had rained. It was like raining, wet, and cold the day before. We shot that in October in Pennsylvania. So we got like the movie gods blessed us the next day, because we woke up. It was like it's like in a mountain town, so it was like super muggy. There was like fog everywhere. When I woke up, I was like, shit. I was like, this does not look like Mississippi at all. but the sky cleared up, and it was actually like pretty warm. It was like pretty warm that day, so they were able to like, put their feet in the like. Some of the crew was actually like jumped in the water to like get certain shots as well. Yeah, like they took their shoes off, they rolled their pants up, they got into the water. So it was like we got super super lucky with that, but yeah, there was definitely additional lighting, because we started losing daylight fast, and because like we're in the mountains, like the lighting change the lighting like changes in the different ways. Like once the sun went behind the mountain, like it created like this really huge cast. So we had to like readjust for that, and then the sun would come back out. It's like, oh shit, now it's like too hot. Now we have to like bring everything back down. But yeah, it took us a little while. We definitely ran out of daylight. We absolutely ran out of it. The scene where her eyes actually go black, like that's right before the sun like was like gone. Like the sun was like practically gone at that point. So yeah.
So was that the last shot of the day?
No, we pushed it to like another shot that didn't make it to the film because it didn't match anything else. So yeah. I had to cut that because there's supposed to be a scene where when Robert walks away, he's supposed to encounter the entity out in the woods. That's what's supposed to happen, but we ran out of daylight. So I had to like switch things around to kind of imply that like as he's gone, this thing is like happening in the atmosphere. So when he arrives back, it's supposed to be like, all right, it's supposed to be implied that he encountered it and is telling him to like bring Sylvia with him.
And what kind of lighting package did you have on that day of filming? Because as you said, filming outdoors, especially when you're in a very nature-heavy area like a river in the woods, it's of course power concerns are a major issue for a lot of filmmakers. So, so what kind of lighting and power package did you have to make sure you had it needed?
If I had Oliver here, he could break it down to you better than I could. But we had a few generators. We definitely had to we had to drive into the woods. We had smoke machines. We had a bunch of stuff. Even a park ranger came over to us at one point because we were using the smoke machine. He was like, "Hey, what the hell are you guys doing?" But we had a permit and everything, so we were fine. But I mean, I wish I could tell you guys exactly what we had. I'll ask Oliver and I'll email it to you guys or something.
All right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, and also too, while we're on production, I always can't resist asking this question. Obviously, you told about making the music on the fly and the crew jumping in the water. But do you have any other crazy fun stories? I'm always a big fan of production stories. Of some fun stuff that happened or some crazy stuff that happened or something that that you caught you off guard. I always love hearing those stories. I know they do too.
Okay. Yeah, so all right, so the first day, so we go from like lower Manhattan to Pennsylvania. We're driving out there. So I rented 2 Airbnbs. So one for the cast, one for the crew. So we go to drop off the cast first at their Airbnb. So it's like this this big house, has like a pool table, all this other stuff. So we go to drop them off, but it's pitch black out there. So we pull up. I'm calling the guy for the Airbnb to like give us the code to like get inside. So it's taking him a while. We finally get the crew in and everything, settle everybody in. But as we pulled in, we didn't like see the driveway, so we just kind of like pulled into the front of the house. We didn't know that like the ground was like wet. It had like sunken. It was like sunk. It was like mud there. So we go to pull off, and we cannot move. Like the car is stuck in the mud in front of that house. Now the other Airbnb is maybe like a mile away, And we're just stuck there now. And we had to call AAA in the morning. So we actually wound up everybody staying in one house, except for Oliver and a sound man. They had to go into the other house because they drove separately. They drove with like the camera equipment. So I was just like, holy shit, like, I can't drive to the set in the morning because we're stuck in the mud. So, luckily, AAA came in the morning and they were able to pull us out. So yeah, first we were stuck in the mud, literally. What else happened? Oh yeah, so there's this woman who worked at the place where we shot the ballroom scene. And she like out of nowhere just started like helping out on set. Like she was just like extremely helpful. Didn't pay her extra or anything. She was just jumped in and got, dirty with us. And she rigged this huge black sheet across these windows to like block out the daylight, because we had to make it seem like it was nighttime, so we had to block out these huge windows. And she rigged it with a spoon and a piece of yarn. She like this huge black backdrop. She just rigged it by herself. I was just like blown away by that. Like she was just like way more manly than I ever was. Like she's just like yeah, I can just rig anything with a spoon. She got really MacGyver with it. And her son was there helping on set. Like he did the clapboards and all that stuff. Like he was super. His name is Mikey. He was super helpful. But yeah, I think that's like as far as like anything bizarre. But once that car got stuck in the mud, I was like, of course. Of course, yeah.
Of course.
It always has to be something.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we got plenty of stories of of weather, of being kicked out of locations and then finding other locations, and God, so many things. Having to tow somebody was fun. We had to tow somebody out of our workspace one time.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? It was one of those things that like if they were a little bit off, we would have figured it out. But they were right in our space, like half in where we were shooting. I'm sorry.
Why? Why were they there?
So essentially, the second episode of Living Nightmares, we were shooting on a street, and we had reserved several places for parking on the side and filming. We actually figured out that the whole thing is supposed to take place while a character is sitting in a left lane, and we figured out, oh wait a minute, we could just mock it. Like it's a lot easier just to have this car parked, and we'll mock the whole thing as if he's still in the left turn lane. Mm-hmm. So when we got there, there was a car dead center.
The city put up signs for us and everything saying you can't park here from this time to this time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there was no warning or no sign or anything. So we got there, and we actually got there about 15 minutes after our time started.
Yeah. 15 minutes afterward.
We got there, and there was a car parked right in the middle of the area we needed to be in to make it look like he was still in the left lane. Because like if we had shot it anywhere else, you'd be able to see out the window. No, he's not parked in front of a street light. He's actually parked.
He's actually parked wherever the hell he wanted to be.
So we needed it to be at that exact spot, and of course that's where he was parked at. So this one here called the tow truck.
That's why I tell everybody. That's why I tell everybody to have an on-set producer, so they can do all the. I remember our makeup artist Antonisha was like, "Oh my God, Mark, I want you on my set," because I would never have the heart to actually tow somebody. I was like, good. I was like, yeah, I'll be the token asshole of the group. I will have no problem being that guy. That you know what, that dude had a bunch of time. Not to mention too, we were sitting there for like an hour and a half waiting for Chicago. sewage and recreation or whatever the department that handles.
It was really only like a half hour for them to get there.
No, it was
Um,
45 minutes to an
45
hour.
minutes.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, it was definitely 45 minutes.
But the actual towing took some time too, because the guy, like, didn't the guy do something to his car to make it difficult to tow or something?
Yep, I don't know what it was, but she was just like,
but-
"What the hell is wrong with this damn thing?" I
Yeah,
was just
Booby
like,
trapped his
"Look out of
car."
my shot!"
Probably got the e-brake on.
Yeah, like we were starting to think it was actual sabotage, like for a while.
He Jeepers Creepers his car.
I'm sorry.
He Jeepers Creepers his car. He like put a whole bunch of
Yes,
booby traps.
Oh, look at that! Respect on the reference, sir.
Yeah.
Minus the murder.
Yeah, minus the murder. that we know of. I mean, the car was.
We don't know the guy.
We don't know, and it was kind of a creepy older car too. I gotta admit, it's like the Gremlin version of his death bus.
Look, next
from
time Mark
Jeepers
just have a stick on you so we could shove it in the tailpipe and just let it go boom.
Yeah, it will. I don't even think that would have moved it.
It would have moved it far enough away for us to get the job done.
And they were right in the middle of our crafty space too, man. Like not only that, they're right in the middle of the crafty space. And we have a saying here at Midwest and everything else: fuck up everything, but don't fuck up crafty.
True.
So yeah, we've had our fair share of fun. So the question too I was gonna ask too is, did you get any surprises out of your actors when you were actually filming, besides obviously the improvisation of making that music on the spot? Were there any like scenes where the actors really took you by surprise and you went, holy shit, I didn't even think about doing that, or I didn't even I never thought about doing it that way, but that's awesome.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I guess it kind of ties back into like the funny things that happen. So, the opening scene where Robert and Sylvia are passing the flask back and forth between each other. I didn't know, but Damien put like real booze in the flask.
Nice.
So I didn't know that, because there's one point where with Kaylin, after like she takes a swig, like it's in the film, like she takes a swig and she's like, ugh. But that's because she didn't know either. Like she didn't know that there was like, actual whiskey in the flask. So the whole time, like he's like, he's really smoking these cigarettes. He's like, no, I have to roll a cigarette every single time. So like the cigarettes are going out. He's going through like, 5 or 6 hand rolled cigarettes. He's like really drinking. He's like really, really. And I told him, I was like, you don't have to do that. He's like, no. He's like, no, I want to do this. But yeah, because when we were like packing everything up, he was like, he's passing the flask around to the crew. I was like, why are you passing this around? He really had some whiskey in there. So that was that definitely caught me off guard.
Nice. Very, very cool. Very cool. Go ahead, man.
It's like Edward Norton Birdman. Have you ever seen Birdman?
Oh, I love Birdman.
Yeah, it's the scene where Edward Norton's freaking out on stage because they replaced his whiskey with apple juice on stage.
They actually did that to Michael J. Fox on Back to the Future when he's in the car with his mom and she has the flask. He does the spit take. The crew actually replaced his the water or whatever was in there with actual booze, and he had no idea when he did the spit take. It was actually a really funny outtake of him doing that. You can hear the whole crew laugh behind the camera. He's like, "Thanks, guys."
I have to look that up now.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep, yeah, that's a fun outtake.
But yeah, so another thing I really liked about the structure of the Dark Strums is how a lot of it is told in a lot of static shots. You let the characters unfold the story. I'm sure we've all seen a lot of short films that just try to go like really crazy with the camera movements, but the camera in your short really just let the characters be the story. And I thought that took a lot of confidence to do that. And that's something that I don't see. And I see it, but I don't see it as much as the whole, we need to show off that we can use a camera type of short.
Right.
Look how awesome we are.
Yeah, so it's like, were there any kind of conversations you had with your DP during pre-production about how you wanted the shots to be structured? 'Cause it didn't look like you just decided the day of, oh, put the camera here. There was a structure to the scenes. There were definite compositions that had to be thought out. So what kind of conversations did you have with your DP?
Well, I know like well, I knew like certain parts of the film, like I wanted to like mislead people a little bit. So like as the film started out, I wanted it to be visually romantic. I wanted it to give this kind of feel of like, oh, I'm just like watching two people be very romantic and lovey-dovey with each other. So I wanted to shoot it like that. You know, there's like, you know, showing them like within like a very close, intimate space within each other. The very romantic lighting that's hitting them at the same time. And like once I got to like the ballroom scene, for instance, I wanted it to feel as lonely as possible. You know, that's what I really wanted, because like there's the one part in this scene where Elma is like, well, you know, it's your birthday. And I cut to the room being extremely empty. You know, I kind of wanted to like complement the dialogue with what people were seeing visually. Yeah, because on paper it's supposed to be like, you know, I'll play for your birthday, but it's like what people are seeing is just like this really big, open, empty space. That's, you know, that's how you get people to feel bad for him in that exact moment. So I knew what the intention of each scene was supposed to be, so I kind of like shaped it around that. I wanted this part for people to feel lonely and sad up until they get shocked. I want people to feel like they were watching a love movie until they're shocked, you know. And then after that's out of the way, like once we got to like the final scene, like when it came to the leveling, like the eye level of like Elma being on that platform and the antique worker being down here, like I wanted her to like kind of stand over him as she's playing. I wanted kind of her to like look down upon him as she's like, you know, playing her music, because this is her way of like her giving the middle finger to everybody who's ever doubted her, to people who are saying to give up on your dreams, to go do something else. This is kind of like her middle finger, just like walking down and looking down on him as he like, you know, as she pretty much kills him.
Nice, very cool.
And then what was their post-production process like for this short?
So I wound up doing the majority of the editing, which I would not recommend to any filmmaker. Do not edit your own films. You will hate your film. It is
Too
very...
late. You saw like three people turn their heads to this direction. You know, I'm very interested to hear you two talk about that, about you guys editing your own stuff. I'll let him finish first.
Go ahead.
It's because what I did first was I just kind of laid the story out. I was just like, all right, I know what the story is, so let me just put all that down on the timeline and play that through. And I was like, ugh, this is not good. Because it was just like I was trying to like, there's like a process between taking what you shot and like what you wrote, and you have to like find a balance in between them, you know, because it might be you have to like cut certain things that like once that piece is gone, you have to like reshape the puzzle kind of, because that's what editing is. It's just like this really big puzzle. And I'm just looking at things like, oh man, I wish I would have got this shot, or I wish I would have taken my time with this, because I see all the faults. You know, I see every single thing that's wrong with it. So I have to kind of like push that to the side and just like, you know, not let that get me down and just like focus on the story. So I did like maybe 5 different drafts of the film, like five different ones at first that still had like the proxies in there, and that still didn't have like any VFX shots or anything. The audio wasn't mixed, just me like trying to like make it feel smooth, make it feel like a film. You know, I was just trying to like smooth that out for like maybe like 3-4 months, you know, just working on that like every day. Like maybe take like 2 or 3 days break, but like, you know, going back and like really trying to find things that so that it felt as cohesive as possible. Because it's not only like making sure like certain shots line up, but it's also like getting the story correct as well. So that took me a bit to get that down. So after I got, so what was next? I think I sent out the clips for like VFX next, and then I had to get a colorist as well. So so the colorist actually wound up being the assistant editor on the film as well, because he actually helped me fix like a big problem I had with the film, because there was like a certain sequence that I wasn't 100% sold on, but I was just kind of like, well, you know, I shot it. I don't know what the hell else to do. I was just like, ah. So for somebody else to come in and just be like, well, you know, actually, what if you change it like this? And I was just like, oh shit, this is actually perfect. Like I was actually able to like get over a certain hump that I had. Because at first what he did at first was he took my film, I gave it to him to color correct. He just made a completely different cut of the film. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, did you just cut my film? But it was so jarring. I was just like, well, what did you do? And then like most of it, I was just like, no, you don't do that. But it was that one thing that he fixed that I was just like, oh God, like that's actually perfect. Like, yes. So he came on as assistant editor for the film. He also did the color correction, sent out the audio next. You know, it's a pretty straightforward process. But yeah, I do not recommend. I would recommend like getting Final Cut on the film, like you saying like that's what I want. But I like sitting down and like actually stitching your film together, like it is rough.
There's a great director quote called he said, do not remember what director said this. He says, you'll never be as excited at seeing your first dailies, and you'll never be as devastated as seeing your first rough cut.
Yeah. It's like, wow, I wasted a bunch of time. It's like, wow, I just like, what did I do? It's like, what did I do? Yeah, it's pretty rough watching your film, especially because you just know what you wanted to get accomplished, and then you're just watching it, and it's like it's even hard to like give it to people to trust other people's opinions at times, you know, because you might get somebody who just might not get the film. And I'm like, hey, do you like it? They're like, oh, well, you know. Or you might get somebody who's like, oh, I love this, but their opinion is like their taste in film is just like whatever, as well. So you don't really know. Like it's the hardest part about, you know, doing the edit is like hitting export. Like it's like, oh, this is my film. It's like I'm taking this out of Premiere. Like this is what I'm going to compress it. I'm going to do all these things. It's just like, ugh. But yeah, like once you get to that point, like I feel like that's like the hardest, because everything else is like I could still be editing that film. You know, I had to reach a point where I was just like, all right, I'm done. This is it, because otherwise I could just be caught in the cycle of just like, well, you know, move this, no, do this, no, actually, can you like you know, make the trees a little bit more greener, just like a little bit more green. Because I was getting to that point. I was just like, can you make the browns a little bit more saturated? And then I was just like, all right, I need to stop and just.
Yeah, but and by the way, do not feel bad. I mean, you know, the two biggest examples I always when directors talk about this is Scorsese. Scorsese was in the premiere of Goodfellas sitting next to Nick Pileggi, and he turned to him on a couple occasions and said, "Hey, do you think we can edit this a little bit?" Nick's like, "We're at the premiere of our It's over." Oh my!
Yeah.
Well, there are. Kubrick has re-edited his films after release. Like, there's a whole different ending to The Shining that isn't on any release anymore. That takes place after Shelley Duvall and Danny escaped.
Oh god!
Which
Oh,
Kubrick
really?
decided, no, I don't like this ending. I'm going to take it out. And then I feel like he also might have made some other cuts. 2001: Space Odyssey after that one premiered. But then one of the big ones. Is actually, and this wasn't a Kubrick movie. This was another director's movie. The Exorcist 2 was re-edited after not just after the premiere, but after the actual wide release. It was re-edited twice. Like, they actually sent editors to movie theaters to remove scenes from the prints. So it's not unheard of to edit a movie.
There's another film that what's the name of this film? Is it called The Descent? It was about these women who they go into
cave
like this
divers.
cave.
Yeah.
There's like two different endings. The one that I saw was when she's like, it ends with her down there in the cave, just kind of like going mad and insane. That's the one that I saw. I didn't know that there was another ending to it where she actually gets out.
Yeah, so what happened with that was, so the ending you saw is actually the original ending. That's what was released over in Europe back in 2005. Then when it was released here in the United States theatrically, for some reason they removed that last minute. So it's like she gets out, and of course it's when she's in her car, and then she's like on her steering wheel, and when she comes up, the ghost of her friend is right there, and she screams. And the real ending, that's when it cuts back to the cave. Over here in the States, it just cuts to the credits. And then they restored that ending for the DVD and Blu-ray release, and I have no idea why they removed that last minute from the North American theatrical release. Just like
so they could get a part 2.
That there's some
I'm
truth
pretty
to that.
sure that's the reason that happened.
I mean, yeah.
How many years was part 2 released after that?
I don't think it was that many years.
I didn't even know they did a part 2. Fair enough.
It was actually directed by the editor of the first one.
It wasn't terrible. It was a decent movie. It wasn't
4 years after.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie or anything. It was just
it's more of the same.
It's more of the same.
Yeah, just if anything, a little bit more graphic, but yeah.
Fair enough. The and then we could talk about Casablanca. Then they had 5 endings there, and then Apocalypse Now had 5 endings or 3 endings. Did they ever film any of those potential endings?
No.
In Apocalypse? Okay. Because I know he had a director's cut where he had like a bunch of different scenes and never made it in. Like I think he had a cameo where he pretended to be a DJ that was doing SOS work, and like they crashed in the middle of the fucking forest, and then they found him later with like 2 other chicks, and then they ended up getting killed. Yeah, there's a whole other thing like in some one of those cuts that like never made it in any DVDs. Yeah, it's fucking weird. It's that kind of face weird. It's a bunch of things like that. But yeah, there's definitely some. And the other thing too, I was gonna say was Shakespeare. Shakespeare was notorious for, and this is more of a playwright or a writer type of deal, but he used to sit in the audience facing the opposite direction of the stage. He used to look at the audience, and he used to have the script in front of him, and he would go through the whole dialogue because he was that crazy. And if the audience reacted strongly to a particular piece of dialogue or a sequence, he would write a note saying, "Hey, audience did this." And then he would go that night and he would add more of whatever the audience loved. And then he would hand brand new pages to his actors and everything else. And if an audience didn't like it, he would cut it out. So he's literally editing his play as an audience was reacting to it.
So he's kind of doing like a little test audience. He's like testing everything out on the audience beforehand. And I kind of like stare at, I don't face the audience, but as I'm like, I love doing screenings because I'm able to be in a room with people who don't know me. You know, they have no reason to like, kiss up to me or anything. So, you know, sometimes I just sit back and I watch like how people react to and that's what kind of like has been shaping my style a little bit. That's what kind of actually pushed me towards horror. Like me watching people react to Taste Like Medicine, because I was just like, I wonder how they're gonna react to Drew when he breaks reality. And you know, I could feel. I remember that there was one screening where like people were laughing, and then the laughter just went. Oh. They were just like, "Oh, what is happening?" And then I could feel it in the room. I was like, "Oh, wow!" Like I didn't know like it would work that way. So I've been trying to like, you know, hone in on you know these things about myself. You know, it's hard for me to like say what I'm good at, but I'm just like trying to just like observe and watch and like, you know, make, because you know I don't just make movies for myself. You know, I want people to actually, you know, enjoy them in some way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want a Steven Spielberg Jaws audience reaction. They had a dude that actually ran out of the theater to the bathroom, didn't make it, threw up in the middle of the lobby of the theater, kind of cleaned it up, and then turned around and walked back into the theater to continue watching Jaws.
Wow.
Yeah, that actually happened. Ran right past Steven Spielberg too. Steven witnessed this. He's like, yeah, I was hanging out in the back, and the dude just ran right past me, and I was like, oh, like he thought he was gonna get a walkout. He thought somebody was just walking out, and then he started running. He's like, holy shit, I don't have a walkout, I have a run out. He's fleeing the scene. And then he went into the lobby, threw up all over the lobby, cleaned up, and then walked right back into the theater.
Wow. I saw somebody walk out of the theater when I was watching. I saw the Suspiria remake, and once it got to like the final scene where Mother Suspiria shows up, some guy was just like, no, no. He just like got up. He just like walked out of the theater. I was like, coward. Oh man.
Your spirit is weak.
No, I'm not even gonna lie. When that scene happened, my heart was beating extremely fast because I'd seen Mother maybe like a month before, and I was still like feeling the effects of watching that film. And then like once it got to that part, I was just like, ooh, this is like I have like this weird, it's like this evil mother thing that's been happening with these films I've been watching lately. I was like, oh, this is a little extreme. But yeah, he just got up and walked out.
That's fantastic.
Zach, since you're our post-production person, do you have any post-production questions before we move on?
I think he's talked a lot about his post-production, so I think he's covered most of his like boxes.
Do you guys want to have a therapy director editor session?
I don't
Stay
know.
strong.
Yeah. I don't know. Man.
Yeah,
squirrels.
You must have to like turn off your brain, your director brain, and then turn on your editor brain. I'm assuming that's how you do it.
I don't know. Just things flow naturally for me. It's never been a problem.
I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's
Can't be biased.
It's funny because he and I are roommates. I'm a DP. He's an editor. Like, I'm the production person. He's the post-production person.
Mm-hmm.
He's been going through editing episode 3 of Living Nightmares, and I've been doing the color for all the shots and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a DP doing the color for his own shots right now. And there are some things where I'm just like, I have to live with it.
I know
So
I
can only
like
imagine
a
the
good
direct
learning
editing
experience.
I think one of the things that helps me out is I also
experience.
know visual effects. So anything I see I don't like, well, let me clean that up really quick, and no one will ever know that happened. Continue.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the only thing I can't do post-wise is color, which is why I have him doing it. Otherwise, if I could do that, I'd literally be a post-army.
It's hard to do
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to do color.
Yeah, I can do sound design, I can do visual effects, I can do editing, do all that shit.
Color is fun.
Color.
Color is super fun. It's hard to get a consistency though. I think that's probably like the hardest thing. But I actually really enjoy doing color. It's like that's super fun. It's when you can like really stylize your film. You know, you can really like give it a whole different look and feel, and Yeah, I really enjoyed the color process.
I love the visual effects process. That's my entertaining portion. At least when it doesn't include the fixing your fuck up portion of it.
Yeah,
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 Zach almost started a
post.
business called Fix My Fuck Up, the an editing service. Although I really wish you would have.
I hate doing that
part of
work.
the Midwest
It's
horror.
so tedious.
But hey, that work of yours did end up in a award-winning short film at Cannes.
I don't know how.
Congrats, man.
I have never heard that before.
Because he learned this from me like maybe a month ago.
No, it's been at
And I
least
learned-
3 months now.
3 months now?
Longer
Wow.
than that.
Time
Longer.
flies.
Yeah.
No, 2 months because I just got the check for that job and the other day,
Sure.
and Marcus told me on the drive back from it. Yeah, what happened was there was a short film where Zach had to pretty much paint out an actor's lav mic that was present in like every shot.
Every shot he was in,
Wow.
there was a lav mic on his shirt, and thankfully it was a plain white button-up shirt. If it wasn't for that fact, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. But he was the director, so he couldn't see what the cameraman was like looking at. I don't know why his camera operator didn't point it out. I would have been infuriated, but
Boy.
yeah, well, it was a good paycheck, so I don't care. But
Yeah. But the person who got Zach the job, he was helping me out on a gig 2 months ago. We were filming a commercial for a dance academy, and on the drive back, he mentioned that short won an award at Cannes Film Festival, and so I told him that, and Zach couldn't believe it.
Nice.
So you never know where your work's gonna go.
yeah, supposedly, at least I could say I have some Cannes visual effects work. So good for me.
Yeah, that is something you can write on your resume. Just saying.
On your IMDb.
Thing.
Yeah, or your IMDb.
Yeah.
It's on there, so
There is that. There is that.
That's-
So speaking of awards, let's talk a bit about the reception and festival run of the Dark Strums. You were at New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. We mentioned that it won Best Cinematography there and was nominated for quite a few other awards too. Has it played at any other film festivals? Like, what kind of reception have you received for the Dark Strums so far?
So yeah, it's played a total of 5, including the New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. I mean, the reception's been pretty good. You know, I haven't gotten into like any of like the big festivals, but I'm also learning that horror is like kind of hard to like break into certain festivals. A lot of people just aren't receptive to it. But yeah, I've been focusing more on like, you know, finding genre film festivals. That's what I've been having like my most success with. Like, you know, New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. I was really excited to get into that one because, you know, I was able to like really just go out and interact with the horror community, meet you guys, obviously, you know, and this isn't something that's, you know, at all film festivals. You know, if you get into Cannes, you know, there isn't like you know, people just like dedicated to drama films. There isn't like a drama con, you know, like people aren't showing up for that. But, you know, I was able to like really like learn more about the whole horror community, and it's been really, really cool, you know. And I want to continue to be within this genre, you know, kind of bring my own thing to it, because I feel like there's like no cap on what your imagination can be within this genre. You can do anything pretty much, you know. Fear is universal. You know, you can find a bunch of different ways to display that, and yeah, the festival run's been pretty cool so far. You know, I have submissions all the way until next year, so I'm just gonna continue to try to build a fan base for this film before, you know, I release it online. Continue to, you know, get followers on Instagram and all these things, and, you know, hopefully it can, you know, translate to something. I don't plan on selling this film. I plan on, you know, releasing this like maybe next year, you know, release it online for public viewing. But in the meantime, I'm gonna, start writing my feature.
Good.
Very nice.
And I'm glad it sounds like you're going to be sticking with the horror genre, that you really felt at home with the horror community as well. That's actually one of the reasons why we started the Midwest Horror Network, is because there are a lot of people that just aren't receptive to horror for whatever reason. And we want to bring a lot of filmmakers together and really show that no, horror is just as meaningful as any other genre out there. And I'm glad that you found a good way to express yourself through the horror genre in the horror genre in your own unique way.
Yeah, and then also people can be successful outside of the traditional studio system, and and people can be just as successful in New York and Los Angeles just as much as they can be successful in Chicago and other parts of the Midwest, and and pretty much anywhere. Film doesn't have to be set in a geographical location anymore. We're not in that world anymore. The identity of film, and especially this genre, which has gained a lot of steam in the last 10 years, even more so for more people participating in it. I think it's a really exciting time to be getting involved in this stuff, and we appreciate filmmakers like yourself who are taking a different stance on it and coming with something new and something fresh, and just doing your own thing. You're just doing your own thing. You said yourself, like, I don't want to sell this film right now. I'll release it to the public when I'm ready. Right now I want to shop it around and see what I can do with it. So
yeah. And also, just as a side note, I would, if I could make a horror film, like if somebody was just like, all right, if somebody gave me a budget to make a horror feature film, I definitely want to do either a remake or a sequel to Jeepers Creepers 2. Not Jeepers Creepers 3 that's on Netflix. I don't know what that is.
It's the Mario Party edition.
Yeah, it's weird. But I would love to even just do like my own anthology, like my own creeper story, even if it takes place in a different century or whatever. Like, I would love to do like my own creeper one. Yeah. That might be my favorite horror franchise. I know it's extremely derivative of like a few other films, but I just remember seeing that in theaters. Like, I think this was around the time I was working at a movie theater. And it was like just the right amount of scary for me. It was just the right amount. It's like not enough to give me nightmares, but it was definitely enough for me to be like, holy shit, like, what is this? It was also like pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and it had the right amount of fun to it too.
Right.
There's a little bit of meta, a little bit of fun. And the right amount of horror to it, especially that when the girl was telling her brother, and then that scene in horror movies where somebody does something stupid and everybody hates them for it. This is it. Mm-hmm. Or when she runs the creeper over like 3 times. He's like, let's be sure he's really dead. To literally reverse drive. Oh, no, I'm a big fan too.
Yeah, I love the scene where the old woman, the old woman's at the door, but he's like kind of like he like has her by the back, and he's like kind of pushing her through the door. Like, I was just like, ooh, like the lighting, like the silhouette around her face and everything, like.
Yeah, and then also too at the very end when the cops show up in riot gear, it makes me laugh every time. The redneck brigade shows up in all this riot gear into the gym. It's one of the funniest scenes of the whole movie.
Yeah, I actually always preferred the second one.
I do enjoy the second one too. I do.
The second one's pretty good.
Especially when he makes that rig up, the giant rig is awesome. With the harpoon gun it's fucking sick.
I remember I saw that film so many times. I had counted how many times the father stabbed the creeper. Like, before he kills him, I think he stabs him like 39 times. I think I counted it at one point because I had seen the movie so many times in theaters. I was just like, oh, let me just count how many. I think it might be 39. I think it might have because it's like it was so long. It was like a minute long of him stabbing the creeper. It was like pretty bizarre.
It would have been really cool if they stabbed him 23 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Like ideally the way I would want to do the sequel is I would pick up with the creeper, like they have him like on a cross.
Yeah,
And
and
the
the
second one.
kid show up at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to pick up right there.
Nice.
That,
Yeah. I remember seeing that trailer and being so fucking jacked for it because they used Meet the Creeper by Rob Zombie in the trailer, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be exciting. And it was exciting.
Yeah, I would love to redo that.
I think we're ready for your question on the podcast.
You know what though? I would, at the New Jersey Con, I'd love to talk about that real quick though.
Right.
What was it like for you to go up and accept the award? And, what was that feeling like? When they actually, they called your name and said, hey, you're getting this.
Oh wow, it was I don't know, it's like I don't want to say I was surprised because like I showed up there with the intention of hoping to win, so it's not like I was like, I mean, I was shocked that we got nominated for 3 different awards. I was like, oh wow, I was like, that's pretty cool because I'd been getting rejected by a bunch of festivals to then get nominated for 3 awards at this other one. I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, all right, I'm not going to win all 3. That's not going to happen. And I was like, so I could wind up actually getting none. So I was still kind of like a little antsy about it because I was like, I really want to win one. I really wanted to win. I wanted to win Best Screenplay because I really try my best to like keep the story intact. But once we won Best Cinematography, it was like super humbling, and it was like a lot of fun, because I was able to see a few of the other films, and there were some pretty good ones. I saw some pretty good films there, and I have to also think like, those are just the films that made it into the festival. There's a bunch of films that didn't make it. There's, for all we know, could have been like over 1,000 films submitted. So to get into the festival and then to be nominated and then to win, it's pretty cool. And I thought the award was like really, really cool too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
carved and
it's actually right here. Hold on, wait. I'll show it to you guys.
Nice.
So
there it is.
Nice.
Yeah, best. Yeah. This was like really, really, really cool. It's like it's handcrafted. It's like wood. Yeah. It's I know like Christina Ricci, she got her own. I know who else got their own? Charlie Sheen, he got his own. What was the kid who played John Connor in T2? What was his name? What's the actor's name? Because he was there.
Eddie Furlong.
Yeah. His looks really, it's this, but it's the Terminator. So it has like that, it has like the red eye. It's like this part is like the metal that's dripping, like where the blood is. So it looks really, really cool. I was super jealous.
So high.
Yeah. So yeah, the award itself was like really, really cool. And then the award ceremony was really nice. Like they gave us like they had like these like videos that would play beforehand. It was just like they put a lot of time and effort into it, and it feels good to know that like all those days where I was just like yelling at people and just crying in the bathroom. It's okay because I won an award. It does feel pretty good.
Good.
And it really was a fun little award ceremony that they had too.
Right. And it had nice little karaoke after as well. That was pretty nice. And as actually I was walking through the hotel with my award, like after everything, and like this young black kid, I think he might have worked at the hotel, maybe. So like I'm walking with the award. He's like, yo, you won? I was like, yeah, I won. He's like, you won an award for filming? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah. He was like super, super excited that I had won. And like it was like even like 5 seconds later after he had walked past me, I could hear him go, yeah, yeah. I was like, whoa. You know, like like that was like probably like the coolest part about winning the award is just like, you know, maybe he wants to film one day. Maybe, you know, that's something that's on his radar. And, you know, I guess for him to like see somebody that looks like him win an award at this film festival, like it resonated with him. So that's probably like the best part about winning this award so far. Like just beating that kid. Like even though it was like a very brief encounter, but like he was that way more excited than I was. It was like it was crazy. But yeah, that was like probably like the best part about winning this award.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's my turn. The question of the podcast. Your films inspired me, so I want to talk about black and white. So what is a black and white film that really resonates with you or really speaks with you? Something that, you know, has a lot of meaning to you or a lot of impact to you, you know, at any point in your life, or just something, you know what, that's super awesome. I love that.
All right, hold on, wait, I'll show you.
Oh, all right. Ah,
yes.
Nice.
Yeah, this is a laser disc.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a laser disc.
You don't know it yet, but you and I just became best friends.
Yep. You want to go to a karate in the car? Yep. You can't fight it here. You can't fight it here, gentlemen. This is the war room.
No, this I saw this. I think I saw it in college. Yeah, I saw this in college. It was like one of my film classes, and I was just laughing so hard watching this film. It was just it's just satire at its best, and it was just so visually striking. Like the war room, you know, that black, like it's like I said, it's timeless. It's timeless. It's like no matter what, you're always gonna feel it. You know, you show this to anybody at any point in time. The story itself, you know, is gonna remain, but visually, you know, it's crisp, it's clean, it's hard to like hide anything in it. I feel like it's just like so beautiful. Yeah. So yeah. If you want some black and white, get the laser disc so you can watch it in 2 different parts.
Nice. Love it. D.
Nice. Well, I got a few.
Hit us.
One that I really enjoyed watching was Sunset on Boulevard. And then one big one is Nosferatu, so I'm going way, way back.
Very nice. Very
just
nice.
because I'm a big Bram Stoker fan, and the fact that they got sued because they technically stole his story when they, which is true. I think his wife sued the filmmakers there because they copied his story.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorites, black and whites. That's because of how they used contrast, because you're shooting black and white, so you have to have that right balance of contrast. So that was mine.
Nice. Zach.
Young Frankenstein.
Damn it. Yeah.
Did you seriously steal Mark's again?
Yeah.
That's actually one of a couple. He didn't steal all of them, but yeah, that's a pretty fucking
Keep
awesome.
listening to them, Zach.
Try me. Go ahead. But why Young Frankenstein?
Because it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that's a real easy one.
The movie is an all-time classic, and it'll probably be my favorite Frankenstein story for all of eternity. I don't care. Screw the original. Young Frankenstein's way more awesome.
Their road, their castle, their werewolf. Why are you talking like that? I don't know. I thought you wanted to.
All right, use it yourself.
Puts the candle back. Oh my God, what knockers? Oh, thank you, Doctor. God, that movie is fucking amazing. Anyway, sorry, man. Go on.
All right. Other than that, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
That was one of my maybes.
How is that a maybe?
Yeah, that's because it's
No,
one of my
Mark, I
runners
stole
up.
another one of yours.
Yeah, fine.
No, that movie comes second place to one of the funniest classic comedies of all time. Any Abbott and Costello movie I can watch 1,000 times over. I love those guys. Screw the Three Stooges. They suck compared to those.
I was always a Marx guy.
Man.
Eh.
All right. Anyways,
Brandon.
So my number one pick probably is actually a TV episode, and that's the episode of The Twilight Zone entitled "Eye of the Beholder." Which, have you ever seen that one? So it's about this. Basically, it takes place in this society where people, essentially, if you're an ugly person, you're sent off to these it's essentially a concentration camp. They don't call it that, but that's what it is. And so there's this woman who is ugly, and she's been going through plastic surgery procedures for all her life to try to look beautiful. And so 90% of the episode, her face is wrapped in bandages, and she's pretty much just waiting for, it's after a procedure, so she's just waiting for the time for the doctor to take the bandages off. And during that time, it's all the doctors and all the rest of the cast. They're just cast in shadow, so you don't see what anybody looks like throughout the entire episode until the very end. And if you haven't seen the episode yet, I don't want to spoil the ending because I do think it is one of the best endings to a Twilight Zone ever. Just the way it was shot with shadows and just everything, it's everything that black and white could do in my mind. Want an actual black and white movie, probably my favorite would be the Henry Fonda movie from 1957, 12 Angry Men, which is about 12 jurors for a murder trial. And it's directed by Sidney Lumet, who also did Dog Day Afternoon, Network, Serpico. But I think 12 Angry Men is by far his best movie. And that is a movie where it's the shots, what actors they have in the frame at what time is always relevant to what's being said. And there's one shot in particular where there's a character essentially going on this whole racist rant, and the other 11 jurors aren't having it, but they're just letting him have his rant, and they're just, without saying a single word, essentially protesting everything he's saying. And it's, we all know close-ups, we all know 2 shots, 3 shots. This shot's a freaking 12 shot. It gets every cast member in there, and it's just one of those powerful moments in 1950s cinema, and maybe even just movies in general, I think.
Absolutely. The and actually this movie's so funny because on paper, if you were to describe the plot to somebody who had never seen it, know nothing about it, it would sound like the most boring fucking movie you've ever heard of. But it is the exact opposite of that. Make a movie exciting about 12 men sitting around and talking
about a trial that you did not see.
Yeah, about a trial that you didn't see. And make that exciting. And they made that fucking exciting. It's crazy. It's an excellent movie. I have obviously the Young Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello are great ones. 12 Angry Men are great ones as well. I think a good runner-up for me, there's a lot of them I love. I can talk about the old Cagney movies, the gangster movies that really resonated with me. The Roaring Twenties is one in particular that really resonated with me. It's a Wonderful Life, Casablanca, Clerks. I know I put that in the category with the rest of them. I think the Psycho, most of Hitchcock. The 2 I keep one on the wings because that's probably one of my number ones. But 2 ones that really stick me out are half in color and half in black and white. Is Wizard of Oz and Pleasantville. Wizard of Oz in particular, just because the whole movie is in black and white, and you really got a feel about what's going on. But when she opens up that door for the first time, I couldn't imagine being an audience member in 1939 and seeing Technicolor. Literally just her opening up that door when she's in Oz for the first time, and the fucking door is still black and white. Before she opens it up, if you watch it, the shot's still in black and white, but when she opens up the door, Technicolor. It's just the contrast of those 2 worlds balancing itself out that really hits me. I would probably, you know what, I screw the other one. I think the Casablanca and the It's a Wonderful Life are probably up the top ones. You know what, I'm gonna take Casablanca probably. It's my favorite Bogart movie, right next to Roaring Twenties. It is a fantastic movie. Another movie that had 5 endings. And not to mention that just the style that that movie, the look of that movie is fantastic. And it was also one of the first movies, and you could see it, that had a lot of ad-libbing in it. You can tell that they were making that script up as they went. And to watch I always forget the actor that plays the inspector, but him and Humphrey Bogart just sitting outside the club and just bullshitting back and forth. Nowadays, that would be commonplace in dialogue. But for them to do that in 1943, 42, for them to ad lib back and forth is truly fantastic. And back when film was like, it really did cost a lot of money. It was actual fucking film. And it's a movie that still resonates with me today. And then obviously It's a Wonderful Life for obvious reasons. But yeah, that was one of my favorites. So yeah, that covers black and white.
Cool.
So
I think we got a good variety of picks.
yeah, absolutely. Respecting the Doctor Strange, that's actually a really good pick. Especially on Laserdisc. Brandon and I have a running joke about Laserdiscs. We had a girl who was an AD on one of ours, and she was a younger college student.
Exactly, pretty close to 10 years younger than me. I was born in 1990. She was born in 2000.
Yeah.
And it was her, me, him. Was there somebody else?
There was nobody else.
She
just drew the short of the stick to be right with us.
Yeah, so we were talking about Laserdisc.
And she's like, "What's that?" She's like, "Oh, I know what VHS is because I saw that on like Stranger Things or something." And I'm like,
and she also had older brothers too.
Oh yeah, that's right. She did have older brothers and everything else. And we're cracking jokes about different things. It's just crazy to see technology go that far.
Yeah, we were talking about Laserdiscs, and we were also talking about the 1958 version of The Blob with Steve McQueen.
Oh god.
And then the incident happened the next night, right before filming night 2.
Oh yeah, a joke was made in the movie Goosebumps with Jack Black. And one of the characters is literally reenacting one of the scenes from the movie and saying, yeah, the Blob, and I did that with Steve McQueen and everything else. It's like, I got it on Laserdisc at home if you want to watch it. Just both of us burst into laughter. And Zach's like, what's the matter with you two? Like, you don't understand that we just talked about this. And it's also the reason why I've been traumatized for life, because that's the reason why I watched the 80s or 70s Blob. The remake,
1988,
the 88 Blob, because my mom thought, oh, it's like the Steve McQueen black and white one, and then I watched
black and white.
But she's like, oh, it's like that, and it's not like that at all. Horrible things happen to people, including children. Horrible things happen. Like that one kid gets pulled out of the Blob and he's half fucking eaten by the Blob. Shit. And then and I saw that when I was that kid's age. And everybody wonders why I'm so fucked in the head. Thanks, Mom. Like most things in life, but yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up about my childhood trauma.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap this up too.
Absolutely.
Stephen, thank you for being here. Before we leave our audience, is there anything you want to plug? Where can we find you on social media? The table's yours.
Floor is yours, sir.
So first, I want to thank you guys for having me. This is super cool. This is my first time doing a podcast. So yeah, this has been a really cool experience. If anybody wants to stay up to date on the Dark Strums, we have an Instagram page at the Dark Strums Film. So yeah, any like upcoming screenings, anything of that nature, when we release it online, like you'll find out through our Instagram page. Yeah, and should we have an IMDb page for the film soon? If you guys want to follow that as well. But yeah, just follow us on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then, like we were saying before, please check out those other wonderful interviews we'll have posted up. Remember that we're on Spotify. Come and find us. We'll put links in this video below. And then, as always, please tell your aunts, brothers, sisters, uncles, best friends, cousins, all about our channel. We got to get those subscriber counts up. But we really appreciate all the people that are watching and all listening. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Y'all have a good night.
I did have some final thoughts though. On
Oh,
that
did
we were
you?
supposed to.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Well, let's
Post-credit scene.
post-credit scene.
David.
Zach, have fun with that post. David, final
No,
thoughts.
you're editing it this time, you jerk.
I'm gonna be the one editing.
Oh yeah,
it.
that's right. It's like a grenade that's been pulled. No, you do it. No, you do it.
I did enjoy watching Dark Strums. Love the fact that you didn't get too stuck on the aspect of gore, but you got stuck on the aspect of fear. So and then a big shout out to, I think, Olivia, what was her name? The artist.
Yeah.
Wonderful voice.
Yeah, she's very dope. You can follow her. I think her Instagram is Olivia Griffin. Yeah, if you look at her on Instagram, it's like Olivia Griffin. The actor who played Robert Johnson, Damien, I think his Instagram handle is Damien the Great. Kaylin Jordan, who plays Sylvia, her Instagram is Kaylin Jordan. And Lee Scatsman, he was the antique worker. But yeah, they're all on the Instagram as well. If you guys want to reach out and talk to them as well.
Absolutely.
Nice. Zach,
Squirrels.
knew that was coming. Brandon.
I really like your work. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, man. You guys are super dope.
Absolutely, and Brandon always steals mine, and as Zach does. I can't wait to see what you do next. You got amazing talent about you. You're covering stories that not a lot of people know about. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
And of course, I speak for myself and the rest of the guys. Anytime that you want to come on, we do our regular podcast where we'll take a genre of horror films. And then we just discuss it. We pick our favorites and we tell everybody why, and we have a good time doing that. So anytime that you want to come back for that, you are more than welcome, sir.
All right, we have to do a Jeepers Creepers episode.
Oh, then
done.
done.
Okay,
done.
Noted.
Yes.
Done.
That is done.
Done. That is already done. Yeah, you won't get much disagreement from this crowd. So
Just gives us a reason to watch all three movies again.
Yeah, we have to watch all three.
Do we have to watch
There are two movies.
Do we have to watch?
No, there's three. Just
There's
one's
two.
really
There's
fucking
two.
hilarious. Three. The third one's hilarious.
There's a third one.
There is a third.
Third one, it's Netflix. It's not.
It's Netflix.
Yeah.
It's not a movie. It's Netflix.
It's
Yeah.
Dude,
It's
that is the
DiGiorno.
Simpsons joke if I ever heard one. Holy shit. That is, oh my
Simpsons
god.
did it first.
Simpsons did it.
We make Netflix sound like the special child we don't talk about.
That's because it's not, instead of direct to DVD, it's straight to Netflix. Okay.
The dumping ground of the world.
I don't know. There is also Crackle. Remember Crackle?
fuck is Crackle?
I do remember
It's where
Crackle.
Joe Dirt 2 premiered.
Oh,
Really?
That's
It premiered.
Premiered. It's just, oh my god, like wow. That's almost like going back to like ebomb.com.
And we're not gonna talk about splatter either.
What, really? Now you have to bring it up. If you have a half an hour, Steven, go on Netflix and watch a Joe Dante 30-minute formerly choose your own adventure horror movie with Tony Todd and
Corey Feldman.
and
As Corey Feldman.
starring Corey Feldman, which I'm also pretty sure that this was filmed in Corey Feldman's house, and Corey Feldman was paid in cocaine to film this movie.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It's hard to describe. Just go see it, but you can't help you cannot hold us responsible for what you view.
I won't be able to
You can
unsee
tell
it.
about it
Yeah.
after we finish recording, Mark.
Jesus.
All right. On that note, thank you so much. We all appreciate you. We appreciate you, Steven. Take it easy, y'all.
Follow us at
Thank you.
Midwest Farm Network.
That too.
See you guys.